Welcome back. I'm going to give it a couple minutes to let some people join in. Hello, hello. Hello. Okay, starting to get a few people in here. Okay, I am going to cover the topic nobody likes to talk about. This whole English Roundhand, Copperplate, Engrosser script, it's people are very, very strongly opinionated about this subject. Friendships are lost over this. I've seen people get in massive arguments. It's kind of a touchy subject. Yeah, it's kind of crazy how strongly people feel about this. So, I'm going to yeah, it's like distilled water. The only difference is I'm right on the distilled water. I'm going to cover basically I'm going to show you a little bit of examples and of we'll start with roundhand. Then we will touch on engrosser script, and then we will go to the term copperplate. And my purpose in this is not to say I'm right, someone else is wrong. We're all entitled to our own opinions. If you're going to get mad at me over a word, so be it. It is what it is. My purpose in this is to educate, because I think because especially when people are relatively new, what happens is they see these three terms and they get very, very confused about between the three terms, and they don't know what they're looking for, and they may miss out on something. So, what we're going to do is we will start with English Roundhand. English Roundhand was developed as a handwriting. It was not, today we think of the, oops, sorry about that. We think of the very slow, methodical movement of when you take a class in either Copperplate or Engrossers. And English Roundhand was not that. Traditional English Roundhand was done with a quill. It was developed as a form of handwriting, and it had weight to it. So we're going to look at an example. I'm going to flip the camera here, and what I'm looking at is the universal penman for an example of English Roundhand. And then I'll point out some differences. Flip the camera, and hopefully we can see this. Get this adjusted a little bit. Sorry, I'm moving this around a lot. Oh, I've got a loose connection here. There we go. Okay. Now, one thing you will notice about English Roundhand is one, I got a really pointy nib out so I can point these things out. You can look at letter tops. Letter tops are not super, super square. So it was just, you had thicks, you had thins, and it was done as a handwriting style. Now, this book may not be the best example, but it's the best example I have. And the reason, no, I'm not going to write the examples because it's much simpler to show you from someone else's point. I can write this, but the fact is if I'm writing it, then someone's going to say, no, that's not a right example. He didn't do that letter form right. So this solves that whole dilemma. Yeah, yeah. So, it was a handwriting. There's no absolute square tops, and the reason I say that the universal penman's not a perfect example is because this is engraved after the fact. What happened is a scribe wrote it out, and then an engraver engraved it into a sheet, and it was printed into a book. But this is the best copy I have, and you can look closely. And you can see letter tops are not absolutely square. It was done quickly, not quickly like Spencerian, but much faster than what you would. And and it was. Traditionally, it was written with a quill. The metal nib that we know today wasn't popular until the mid to later part of the 1800s. It was developed before that, and there's actually metal nibs going back to BC times in copper and things like that, but it was rarely used until 1850s plus. So this would have been done with a quill. It would have been done as a means of handwriting and not a means of an artistic letter form. And you can see, like I said, it's very, very different. So, all right, now I'm going to bring up from Zenarian Manual, Engrosser script. Okay, Engrosser script is a form of English Roundhand. But what they did was they tried to perfect the letters by doing it very, very slowly. You'll see every top, every bottom is very squared. It's done with mini pen lifts. Instead of a handwriting style, you would have a go down, lift the pen, finish the letter, lift the pen again, go up, do that section of the letter, many, many pen lifts. I will. I've got several videos to upload to YouTube, so I'm going to upload them all. It was done with many, many pen lifts, and the reason was they wanted absolute precision for engrossing work, certificates and such. So they slowed it way down. They, perfected the square tops, the square bottoms, very thin hairlines and very thick shades. So that is your main difference between English Roundhand and Engrosser script. Okay, so now we get into the big debate subject, Copperplate. All right, and I'm going to use, this is from the Calligrapher's Bible, and this will give you a key into the difference. They're showing you Copperplate or English Roundhand. Now, it's not known exactly when the term Copperplate came from. It was popularized in like the 1970s. However, there are references to it going back from Lüpfer's time. I know there's a passage that I've read, and I've discussed it with someone else too, where Lüpfer mentions Copperplate lettering. So it dates before that. What I think, there's no proof of this. The reason I was talking about this being printed, what they did was a scribe wrote out in Bickham. We're talking in the 1700s, okay? Mid-1700s is when the Copperplate press was popular. The scribe would write it out. He would give it to an engraver. The engraver would engrave the text onto a piece of copper plate, okay? And then that copper plate would be pressed on the page, and that's how they made the printing. So my thought, this is my opinion, is Copperplate was derived because English Roundhand looks like the text that was printed with a copper plate. Now, so if you see the term Copperplate, 90% of the time it's referring to a form of English Roundhand. Not as a writing style. It's still slow and methodical like the Engrosser script style, but there isn't as much, not always as much emphasis put on top square letter forms and such. Some people do it a little bit rounded on the top. I've even seen it concave on the top of the letters, but it's still a slow, methodical thing. So Copperplate basically means English Roundhand in a sense. Now, I'm going to make sure, so hopefully my camera will flip around this time because it didn't last time. We're going to talk now. Well, of course it won't. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can work this out. There we go. Okay. Now, and this is the chat part of our meeting. Let me move so my head's not in that light. Okay. If you email me and say, I'm learning Copperplate, I won't correct you. I don't think that it's needed. Number one, we have so many books entitled with the word Copperplate that we are way too long far gone to try and correct, change, or do anything different. So I will refer to it as Copperplate. If you email me and say I'm doing English Roundhand, I will reply and say okay, and we'll discuss English Roundhand. The thing you need to know is the difference to make an intelligent, educated decision, and that's what I just kind of showed you. You know, Engrosser script is very different in the sense that the letter forms are a little bit more squished. It's done very, very slow to absolute perfection, but Copperplate can be done that way too. There's just variances in it. And it may be confusing, but as long as you know that you're looking at the same, pretty much same style of script, that's what matters. Educate yourself and see the differences. Beyond that, here's my real problem with people that are completely against the term Copperplate. If you're a teacher, for example, and you are hosting a new class and you put a class out there that says, I'm teaching English Roundhand, the reality is majority of new people will have no idea. If you say Copperplate, they'll know. So don't let a word keep you from teaching, spreading penmanship just because you want to be absolutely 100% technically, historically correct. Well, historically correct, if you say you're teaching English Roundhand, you should be doing it with a quill and it should be done at the speed of handwriting, which nobody does. So if you say that you're teaching it exactly, correct, you're wrong, because I don't know anybody that teaches that with a quill. If they have a class, they teach it with a metal pointed pen and they do it as a slow, methodical writing style. And that's it. You're not helping anything by trying to correct the world. There's too much information out there. The term's out there. It's going to be used. There's nothing you can do about it. No matter how, if we get a dozen people together and they're going to fight tooth and nail to try and correct everybody and say it's not Copperplate, etc. Yeah, it's semantics. It's pointless. It's doing nothing but hindering people learning and confusing them, because everyone, you don't even know how many times I've answered the question, what is Copperplate, what is English Roundhand, what is Engrosser script? Just know that it's all derived from English Roundhand. It's a lettering style with weight to the letters, etc. So I encourage anyone, if they're doing a flyer and I see it and they're asking me the question about, how does this look to you? And it just says English Roundhand on it. I'll say, but I'm doing English Roundhand / Copperplate, because you're missing out a whole group of people. So there's not that much difference. That's all there is to it. And it's a waste of time. It's making it confusing. It's not like, we're going to fix this and everyone's going to call it English Roundhand, and we're going to go back and retitle all these books that are out there. There's so many books out there that are entitled The Art of Copperplate, Copperplate script, blah, blah, blah. It's just, yeah, that's it. Engrossers is slightly different. And when I say Engrossers, I go by the Zenarian manual example, and it is slightly different. However, then again, you get into that whole thing where I said Lupfer called it Copperplate. So it's nonsensical. Don't get mad at people. Don't fight. People fight about this. I've seen drawn out arguments. It's insane. There's no purpose in it. You're not benefiting the world of penmanship by trying to fix something. That's exactly it. You're a newbie and you get confused, and it's just adding confusion to the whole problem. So that's it, And I hope that helps a little bit clarify it. If you want to get mad because I will use the word term copperplate if someone wants to use it, so be it. If our friendship revolves around the fact that you're going to get mad at me over a word, silly. So, so any other questions? I'll do a quick question and answer if we want. I don't think there's a whole lot I didn't cover for the basics. Oh, cool. Slant. Yeah, everyone teaches with a little bit different slant. If you're around that, I'm going to say 53 degree angle. The lifts, the lifts are key because with the lifts, what you're trying to do is get exact perfection, and um, the lift allows you to basically reform your thoughts, your hand position, everything to make sure that the next stroke is going to be absolutely perfect. So, yeah. So yeah, as long as and you're back to that angle thing, as long as you're in that 52, 55 range, everyone does it a little bit differently. I don't. I don't recall ever seeing anything that says it needs to be exactly this for like English Roundhand. Everybody's varies a little bit. Just be in that general area. That's the big thing. It's just that perfection, Lindsay. Yeah, it's trying to make this certificate that looks absolutely perfect, and that's what it was script for the engrossers, and you can even confuse it a little bit more. Not to Does he? Okay, that's good, Nina. Um, yeah. So hopefully that will help a few people. I'm going to, at the risk of making a handful of people mad at me, post this on YouTube as well. So we'll see who gets mad. I'm sure I'll hear it from somebody. So yeah, that's it. It's just quit making it so difficult for everybody to understand. So okay, well, I hope that helps a little bit. I hope everybody has a good evening or day to wherever you may be. Just choose an exemplar, yeah, and especially if you got a teacher locally, just go with that teacher's the way they're teaching it. It's all going to be very, very similar. So that's it. So I hope everybody has a good week, and I've got to get very busy in the shop this week because I've been doing stuff around the house and other stuff, so I'm way behind on pins. All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. And like I said, I'll try and get this up on YouTube soon. All right. Night, everybody.